Recently, at the time of making this video, the base game was suspended, then privated for violent content such as smoking. However, our checksmith was able to minimize the violent effects and illicit materials and revive the base game in this last Stranded v1.33, which is 1.74, but with less violent effects. Thank you, Red, and also the community, reviving the game The Last Stranded. Otherwise, I would not have been able to publish this guide due to relevance. Sledge Queen may seem daunting at first due to how strong and unpredictable she can be. However, many strategies have been devised to defeat her, and they're quite simple when following a set of guidelines. I will dive into 2 of these strategies and break them down. I have organized this guide into 3 parts. The Throwing Knives Cheese, a comprehensive guide to SQ's moveset using the HOLO strategy, and will analyze how these strategies fare with a variety of weapons. We'll go over the Throwing Knives Cheese first. Similar concepts of cheesing with projectiles can already be seen in many games, such as in Dark Souls 1. One being throwing bombs over a fog wall to cheese, or beat a boss in a cheap way. Throwing knives cheese is similar to this, but requires high accuracy. Before learning how to do it, let's calculate how much damage this will do. In theory, 3 knives will do 450 to 1200 HP, which means knife does 150 damage because it counts as stealth damage as of 1.74, and we can verify this using Profit Scanner. As you can see, it dealt a little over a third of her HP. Now, let's get into how to do it. Its premise starts off similar to Smoke Girls in CSGO. First, I align my body to the front edge of the red shipment crate. Then, I align camera using a transparent Windows software peek-through. I used an external tool when recording this because it needs to be done nearly perfectly to ensure a hit on SQ. At first, I discovered the throwing spot by guessing and checking different angles in the private server. The indication of the knife's trajectory is very subtle, so I used a second account to see where the knives landed. Recently, I found a good way to find where knives land using what I like to call Ghost Spectate. You may already know about it if you spectated a player and continue to do so after they died. To do this, you'll need to first be in a server with an alt or friend. They'll be used as a second POV. Before joining the game, go into settings on the second POV and check Spectate Game. Then join game. Next, the main count should go to the place where you want to have a free view and expire. The second POV shouldn't press any buttons on the UI. Then the view should be locked in place. I mainly see this being used for getting data on enemy positioning and because different camera angles look cool. Using Ghost Spectate, you can stop and take a high quality screen capture. Then save the .png. Note the SC must be the same size as your screen size. This is because FOV scales with resolution. This is what it looks like when tracing a PNG from a 1440p resolution on a 1080p resolution. The FOV doesn't match. After that, I put the SC behind the Roblox application and essentially trace over it with a transparency overlay like peek-through. This concludes the basics of the Throwing Knives Cheese. The next part I'd like to talk about is the 6 knife burst strategy. As you may have guessed, you throw 6. The first 3 have to be thrown during the freeze state. This works because the first 3 thrown knives will burst SQ after the freeze state. And auxiliary equipment replenishes after a wave. To verify, we will see SQ's HP is visibly lower when the scan went off. We can see a quarter of her hit points are left. Although this may look like one of the best ways to defeat SQ, there are disadvantages that may or may not make it the most ideal. The first is that if you plan on completing a proficient agent run with this strategy using an overlay, it will invalidate your run. According to Tundris, the run is illegitimate if external software or game-breaking bugs are used. So that means throwing stuff at SQ from tower by eyeballing is highly unlikely to be considered cheese. And it's not game-breaking since it arguably takes skills to finish the rest of the run. Second is that this strategy requires a high amount of precision, which will take a bit of time to get down. Thirdly, although SQ becomes easier, it's harder to distance away from the raiders than it would be with HOLOs. And finally, without HOLOs, her movement could be less consistent. This concludes the throwing knives cheese. This next segment will go over safe ways to aggro SQ in context of throwing knives cheese. It depends on their spawn, but the first thing they're departing. Any scavs that could, because if you don't, you may get backstabbed and it might end the run. You could also kill the castle sniper, but he only killed me because I wasn't far away enough. What? Next step is optional, but you can eat rations for extra defense from the Virtus Scav's bullets if necessary. After this, you would attract the queen, but sometimes SQ lands far away. This is because she usually tries to shell shot land on your recent position. When she tries to do this, this ramp may make her glide off course. Because when you do this without HOLOs, she just flies out of your control. So I recommend being near this wall to help stop her momentum. This red area can represent where SQ may hit the ramp. Here are examples if you stand in the middle. And examples showing that the wall can stop her. And if close enough, she may land on the wall instead. The trade-off of standing near the wall is that Roblox physics has a chance of flinging her away. This will also happen with HOLOs. Additionally, if you run in the wrong direction, you'll get hit by her shell shot slam. The reason is because her super jump momentum offset it in front of where she landed. Because I moved against the direction of her momentum, her shell shot appeared in the opposite direction even though she was turning towards me. You can also run in the perpendicular direction. After this, shove to cancel her shell shot, or use knuckle movement. Next she enters a parry stance when running away, and as you may know, all bullets that hit the hammer will be blocked. While we are walking backward while ADSing, break her stance with two options. Either Q to shove a second time, or kiss her, which will force her to drop slide back. Be ready to react quickly. Sometimes she will drop slide, or change stance automatically, which will give you the opportunity to shoot. By this point, you have downed her already if the throwing knife cheese is used. But what if you're using the HOLO strategy? Instead of hugging the wall, you will send a HOLO down the middle area. After setting the first HOLO, run away about 30 studs. Sometimes she will come out quicker than expected. This is so her shell shot hits the HOLO instead of you, else it may ruin the run. Another caveat is that sometimes she doesn't come at all or flies away, which may waste any stim buffs you put on. After that, wait for the first HOLO to be destroyed. For the second HOLO, stand still and pressing C to make it stand still. If you are Arbiter or have a Dynamite, long shot or cook it now for some extra damage. While SQ is distracted by the second HOLO, you will shoot. Before spraying, consider the recoil of the gun. If the recoil is low like AKM, you can consistently hit headshots farther away than guns like Aftermath. If the recoil is high, mag dump close. Next, you can swap weapon and finish her. But what if you don't have a second weapon and have to reload? If she's close, shove, then press R and sprint in the opposite direction while reloading. If she's close and you don't shove, you will get backstabbed. You can run towards tower if necessary. To reiterate, the key point is to sprint away while reloading. Additionally, while doing this, you will have to stomach her shell shot. This concludes the general moveset that SQ will do. This is because she may deviate from this with absurdities like double shell shotting, and I thought it might be caused by walking within the threshold of her melee range. But it's nothing to worry about with a high HP perk like Arbiter or Zealot. I recommend watching this last segment to learn the best guns to keep in case RNG gives you no stable blueprints. This goes without saying, but when looking for guns, you'll need to change routes or if there's a high concentration of scouts. Here's an infographic we've made based on 3 measurements: rate of fire, capacity, and recoil. Low performing guns are slow cycling weapons like pistols and snipers. I don't recommend using them without paranoid trait. In this one, I was spam clicking the Heke as fast as I could, but this is as fast as I fired. Moderate guns are ones that require certain perks, injectors, or traits to mag them effectively. Most of these weapons suffer from low damage, high recoil, or low capacity. Normally, you would only use a few of these as a secondary in the holo strategy. However, if the burst strategy is used, most of these can defeat SQ in one mag without buffs. To understand my perspective better, here are some fails and successes with the weapons. The first is a complicated one. I really wanted to list this as a high tier weapon, but you'll rarely ever see someone use this on a serious run due to its crafting time. Although it has 1200 DPS, the shots need to all hit to be effective. But if in the careful hands of a riskrunner or artillerist, it's one of the best. Be sure to shoot when absolutely sure, as you can accidentally waste bullets. It also retains use for yourself. However, be mindful of its 4-second reload. It killed me a few times. The Chris has low recoil but fires fast, so make sure all shots hit like the AGM. Heavy weapons like Scar H and Ash 12 are moderate not because of recoil, but because heavy ammo from World Spawn is much rarer than light, short, and small. Recoil is so bad that you have to tap fire with these weapons, if without the proper traits. The rest are light guns that are recommended with throwing knives, cheese, or used as a secondary net gun. Out of curiosity, I tested the DMRs, and it turns out all of them are bad for holo strategy, even with paranoid trait. Same goes for the 2 semi-auto shotguns. Caldwell needs S44 stim for fast reload, and perhaps 3 CBS stim for fast shoving while reloading. Finally, all good guns consist of medium ammo guns but the SKS. Many are absolute chainsaws capable of shredding her at full health. Note that runs can still fail with the best guns due to human error. Spamming KSG with Paranoid brings exceptional performance to the table because it can down SQ in one tube even if a few miss, a highly competitive choice. Many perks with Paranoid, even Apostle, are great for KSG. Just don't bring your Sickler as SQ can heal from it.
I wanna like give another go at Alban, but I just don't think it's a good idea. Because I know like Alban, if I were to try that again, I can definitely like get a much more better execution of him. But I don't know, my standards is not actually that great anymore.
have seen me use dynamite in the previous segments. This isn't a tick spider tutorial, but I just want to put out a PSA that the dynamite has a 5-second fuse. This concludes the tutorial. Goodbye.